Welcome to this demonstration of the Tivoli Role Modeling Assistant and Role Management Assistant betas. In this demonstration, you'll see some of the features of these two beta offerings that provide capability for modeling role structures and creating approval processes for role definitions. We're going to follow the activities of a fictitious company named JK Enterprises, which provides healthcare services to Seattle Grace Hospital using Tivoli Identity Manager. The Seattle Grace Hospital Surgical Unit has been using an application for scheduling surgeries. Although users already have access to it, JK Enterprises would like to reduce security risks by implementing role-based access to it as they prepare to onboard the application into Tivoli Identity Manager. We'll see how the Tivoli Role Modeling Assistant and Role Management Assistant betas help JK Enterprises accomplish their goal. We'll begin by logging into Tivoli Identity Manager to take a quick look at the JK Enterprises IT landscape. Let's look at the organizational structure. We see JK Enterprises supports several hospitals, including Seattle Grace Hospital. And there's the surgical unit that's using the surgical scheduling application. Now let's look at the roles that already exist in Tivoli Identity Manager. We'll search for all roles. We see that there are 20 roles in the system. The roles starting with the letters SGH are those used by Seattle Grace Hospital. Now let's begin the role engineering effort for the surgical scheduling application. The beta offerings include a utility that exports data from Tivoli Identity Manager. A JK Enterprises Tivoli Identity Manager administrator invokes the utility. He specifies that all data should be exported. He specifies the Tivoli Identity Manager user ID and password. He specifies an arbitrary string describing the data being exported. And then he specifies an output file name. The data has been exported and is ready to be consumed for role modeling. JK Enterprises uses the Role Modeling Assistant to model roles for the surgical scheduling application. The role modeling process begins by creating a new project. The project is a container for different kinds of data. We previously exported data from Tivoli Identity Manager, and we'd like to import it into the Role Modeling Assistant. We'll start by importing identities. We'll create an import source that corresponds to the data that we previously exported from Tivoli Identity Manager. We see that it imported 33 identities. Now we'll import groups from Tivoli Identity Manager. We already created the import source for Tivoli Identity Manager, so now we can just refer to it. And we'll import roles from Tivoli Identity Manager. Now that we've completed importing data from Tivoli Identity Manager, we also need to import data for the surgical scheduling application, which is not yet integrated into Tivoli Identity Manager. We'll import groups. We'll create a new import source that refers to the data for the surgical scheduling application. In addition to the import source, we'll create an attribute mapping so that the role modeling assistant can identify the names of the groups on the surgical scheduling application. The name of each group is represented by the value of the CN attribute of that group. Although not required, we'll specify the name of the surgical scheduling application so that those groups can be associated with it. We'll link the group memberships to the identities that we previously imported from Tivoli Identity Manager. We do so by selecting the appropriate attributes. Now that the import of data is complete, we're ready to switch over to the role modeling perspective. The role modeling perspective consists of several different views. The projects view lists the projects with which you can work. The identity comparisons view includes the list of users across the top and the user attributes that are defined. The value for each user attribute is listed in the table. As you scroll down the identity comparisons view, you'll see there is also a section for group memberships. It lists each application and the groups that are defined within that application. A check mark indicates that that user has membership in that group. The role tree view shows the organizational structure with the roles. For the surgical scheduling application, we're going to be focusing our efforts on the SGH surgical unit. We see there are several roles already defined within that organizational unit. In the JK Enterprises environment, there are several user attributes that aren't used or that have values that won't contribute to the role modeling effort. We can click this tool icon to filter out the attributes that we don't want to include. We uncheck the user attributes that we don't want to include in the role modeling effort. Additionally, you can filter out the group memberships that you're not interested in including. Since we're focused on the surgical scheduling application, we'll filter out all other applications. That reduces the amount of data we have to work with. We see the surgical scheduling application includes two groups. Although not required, we'll create an application role for each of those groups. To create a role, we switch over to the role tree view. We right-click on the organizational unit in which we would like to create the new roles, and we select New Role. We specify the role name for the surgical scheduling reader group. And we specify a description. could specify parent roles and child roles, but we'll leave those empty, and we'll specify that this is an application role. We'll save the role. We'll follow the similar process to create an application role for the writer group. Now that we've created application roles, we'll shift our focus to business roles. We'll start by focusing on the reader group. We select the filter to update the table to show us only people who are members of the reader group. We see that there is a 100% match that all members of the reader group are in the SGH surgical unit. But do all members of the SGH surgical unit have access to the reader group? To test that theory, we'll update the filter for the OU attribute. We'll update it to tell us only show us people who are in the SGH surgical unit. And now we'll update the filter on the reader group to show us only people who are not a member. We see that there are no people, so indeed that says that all people in the SGH surgical unit need access to the reader group. That sounds like a good reason to create a role, so we'll create a new business role. For this business role, we would like to specify the application role for the reader group that we've just created. By doing so, when a user becomes a member of the business role, they automatically inherit the permission for the reader group. Let's follow a similar process for defining a business role for the writer group. We'll start by clicking the erasers to clear the previously specified filters. Similar to what we did for the reader group, we select the filter for the writer group to update the table to show us only people who are members of the writer group. Once again, we see there is a 100% match that all members of the writer group are in the SGH surgical unit. Let's test to see if all people in the SGH surgical unit are members of the writer group. We select the filter for the writer group to update the table to show us only people who are not members of the writer group. This time it shows us there are people in the SGH surgical unit who are not members of the writer group. Let's focus on the people who are members of the writer group. We see that there is a high match based on title. Through further investigation, we could find that all chief surgeons and all physicians in the SGH surgical unit are members of the writer group. That's good enough reason to create two new roles, so let's do so. For this new business role, we would like to specify a parent that is the application role that we created for the surgical scheduling writer group. Members of the SGH physician role will therefore automatically inherit the permissions of the surgical scheduling writer role. To create the new chief surgeon role, we'll use a slightly different approach. We'll select the physician role that we just created and copy it. We'll select the organization unit in which we want to place the copy, and we'll paste. Now we'll edit the copy that we just pasted and change the information appropriately. In the role tree view, you can click this icon to view the roles in their inheritance hierarchy. Here we see the new roles we created, with the chief surgeon and physician roles inheriting from the surgical scheduling writer application role that we created, and the schedule viewer role inheriting from the reader role. You can click this icon to once again view the roles within their organizational structure. Now we're ready to export the roles. We right-click at the root level and select Export. This gives us the option of selecting which roles we would like to export. For simplicity, we'll just export them all, which includes the new ones that we created. We specify the file to which they are to be exported. And now they've been exported. Now we will see how the Tivoli Role Management Assistant can be used to approve the new roles we created. Rajiv Patel, a member of the JK Enterprises security team, logs into the Tivoli Integrated Portal to create an approval process for the new roles related to the surgical scheduling application. He selects My Workspaces and selects the Tivoli Security Role Management Assistant. Before they can be approved, the new roles must be imported into the Role Management Assistant. Rajiv specifies the file into which the roles were previously exported from the Role Modeling Assistant. In the preview, Rajiv can see all of the roles that will be imported, including the new roles that were created. In the Roles tab, the roles are shown within the organizational structure. Now that the roles have been imported, Rajiv can go back to the Role Management Assistant main tab and create an approval workflow for the new roles. Rajiv selects a workflow type that will cause emails to be sent to the approvers. When creating the workflow, Rajiv can select multiple roles to be included in the approval. Rajiv selects all of the new roles related to the surgical scheduling application. In addition to roles, Rajiv can specify related policies to be included in the approval, such as separation of duty policies. In this case, there are no related policies. When specifying approvers, Rajiv selects the simple approach, in which one or more people approve the package of roles. Rajiv selects Miranda Bailey and Jack Webb as the approvers. The summary includes the list of roles to be approved and the approvers. Rajiv has the option of starting the workflow now, but we'll defer that for a moment. Before starting the new workflow, let's take a look at all of the workflows in the system. We see that in addition to the new workflow, there's an existing workflow. The new workflow is in draft state, allowing Rajiv to make updates until he is satisfied with it. Once he is satisfied, he can click the Start Workflow button to initiate the approval process. This sends email notifications to each of the approvers requesting that they log into the Role Management Assistant to approve the roles. After receiving the email notification, Miranda Bailey logs into the Tivoli Integrated Portal to approve the new roles. Miranda can view the roles she has been asked to approve. Once she has viewed the details of a role, an indicator helps her pick up where she left off if she is interrupted and returns to the task at a later time. She can also navigate from role to role. If there were related policies, she would also be able to view those. Optionally, Miranda can post a comment. Finally, Miranda approves the roles. Having received an email similar to Miranda's, Jack Webb logs into the Tivoli Integrated Portal to approve the roles. Note that Jack can see the comment posted by Miranda. Jack approves the new roles. Now that the approval is complete, Rajiv logs into the Tivoli Integrated Portal to check the status of the workflow and the roles. Rajiv sees that the approval workflow for the new SGH surgical scheduling roles is complete. Navigating to one of the newly approved roles, it also indicates that it has been approved. To prepare to deploy the newly approved roles in Tivoli Identity Manager, Rajiv clicks the icon to export the roles. Finally, Rajiv exports the approved roles. The beta offerings include a utility that imports data into Tivoli Identity Manager. A JK Enterprises Tivoli Identity Manager administrator invokes the utility, specifying the file containing the roles that were exported from the Role Management Assistant. The new roles have now been deployed in Tivoli Identity Manager. Let's log into Tivoli Identity Manager to view the new roles for the surgical scheduling application. As before, we will search for all roles. Now there are 25 roles. As we scroll down, we can see the new roles that we created in the Role Modeling Assistant and approved in the Role Management Assistant. The demonstration you have seen illustrates just some of the capability of the Tivoli Role Modeling Assistant and Role Management Assistant betas. These offerings extend the role management capabilities of Tivoli Identity Manager.